This is Humanity at Work, and today's episode, How an International Company is Maintaining a Connective Culture in COVID Times, is brought to you by Everybody Up. Everybody Up provides experiential communication workshops on leadership, employee engagement, and team building. I would like to welcome everyone to the Association for Talent Development Austin Chapter podcast series, Humanity at Work, where we talk about how to bring humanity back to the workplace. Today's episode is all about how an international company is riding the COVID wave, and I am your host, Melissa Love. My guest today is a dynamic technical sales leader who brings a unique combination of customer focus and strategic business vision to the challenges of expanding market share and enhancing bottom line profitability. As Vice President of Professional Services, he leads a team of over 250 for Informatica, a software development company that specializes in data management. My guest today's roots started in Sweet Valley, Pennsylvania, where his leadership skills were tested on a moment-to-moment basis as the oldest of 12 brothers and sisters. Building highly functional, forward-thinking organization is now his passion. Please help me in welcoming Bill Humphrey. So, Bill, thank you so much for being here. I couldn't be more happy. So, Informatica, it's an international company. I think over or nearly 5,000 employees, 240 countries, and a large percentage I know of your workforce, they were already working from home before COVID hit. And it was this really zen, probably environment for them. Everybody, their wife or their husband went off to work in the mornings and their children went off to school. And then COVID happened. And it became this probably noisy, chaotic, dogs barking atmosphere. I could only imagine. And because I was talking to Sherry, one of your coworkers, like right at the beginning, and she was like, people are just like a little bit cracking up because in a bad way, because of their Zen home environment being so incredibly invaded. So, and I know that you went through some of that as well at the beginning with your husband. I called one day and you got me on Zoom and I saw your husband with his back to me. I've never seen his face. And your son with his back to another wall. And, you all were in there and you're all trying to make stuff happen and you're all trying to keep him focused. So I'll stop talking, but just tell me from your perspective, how that was as a parent, as an employee, and as a leader, how that sort of interrupted your life.
So I'll probably take that in two different ways if I can, Melissa. Our employees, specifically in professional services, have been predominantly work from home. That being said, they were 80% on the road. So work from home was a quiet hotel room or a customer's office. Now they're home every day. Me personally, I used to use Fridays as my day to do reporting, my day to do forecasting, and it would be quiet at the house. Johnny would be at school, Larry'd be at work. I get my own Zen. I can do my math. I can do my planning. I can look at the forecasting. I can look at all the projects. Now I've got, in an attempt to keep some sanity in our house, we moved all of us into one room to make it the work room. Now, yeah, I know you think that it worked probably 70%.
Right. Okay.
Because we would close the door and we would say, okay, that's office, that was school. Now we can join the rest of our life, whether it's at the pool or playing a board game at the table, etc. That being said, the 30% of the time that didn't work, three of us talking at the same time. Right. Johnny is trying to do schoolwork on a Zoom. My husband doesn't realize that he's in a room with other people, so he gets louder and louder and louder. And I'm like, volume. And then, I was glad with it when Informatica came out with the backgrounds, because there were some times where, personally me, I get up, I shower, I get dressed, and I still, even if I don't go to the office, I still get ready like I'm going through the motions.
Right.
I'm a morning person. My husband is not. So he'll come in with his pajama bottoms on and his shirt on and his coffee. And I'm like, I'm on a call. We can see you back there. It certainly is more interesting, as time has gone on. Johnny's gone back to school. Larry's gone back to the office 2 days a week. Informatica is still, we're piloting 2 different countries right now to have them back in the office. But because our focus is so heavily on our employees first, we want to make sure that we are not the cause of any kind of outbreaks as a company.
Right.
I'm on calls now where last week I was on a call with Deloitte, for example, and literally behind me in these glass doors, people were giggling on the phone because they saw people with blue polos walking behind me. The maid service was here. And they're trying to vacuum, and they're like, somebody behind you. I'm like, yes, let me put the background screen on for you. Or I have a great dog, best disposition ever. His bark, you'd swear he's 20 feet big.
Right.
The pool guy comes through and he'd bark like this big bellowy bark. I'm like, shit, it's okay. It's okay. You met the pool people before. It has certainly been interesting. From a family perspective, it puts strain on the family,
Right.
because I've always used work as the escape from home. You go to work. Yeah, you go to work, you put your brain on, you focus. When you're home, your brain sort of goes to, I got to be a dad. I got to help with the homework. I got stuff around the house to do. I got to be a good spouse. And you sort of feel this tug of war sometimes in the day, regardless of what time of day it is. I mean, normally you'd go to the office and I'd probably be there from like 7:30 till 6:30. I find myself working later in the evening. My employees are doing the same thing because they feel like they have to be on. So we really been pushing hard on them to find a balance. Take time, focus on self-care, make sure that you find the balance.
Right.
Early on in COVID, we actually did happy hours where we'd bring your family to the happy hour. So people would introduce their family to each other, and their kids would be talking in that. We'd have separate breakout rooms for them in IPS. So we've done a lot of different things in that regard, to try and make the home environment still be your safe home, but also the flexibility for one to actually be productive in that space.
Right. And I can totally relate. I worked for companies out of my home for many, many years. And as a mom, it was very difficult for me to leave my office, flip a switch, from leader, project manager, employee, boss lady, to mom, enduring, comforting, supportive, or you need to do your homework person. It was just very difficult. And emotionally, I had trouble with it, where I almost at times would get in my car, drive around the block a few times just to have that moment of, sometimes you have to force your brain, but you have to do it in a physical way or in a geographic way, just kind of like you do, like in the mornings where you shower, shave, get dressed, where other people, like your husband, just gets his coffee and goes to work in his jammies. Everybody's different. And what each employer was expecting of one another was different too, and based on their role was different. Are you front facing? Are you not? Are you never front facing, but now all of a sudden you have to be on Zoom? What is this? I think that there was also that Zoom fright that happened with people that could normally shrink away within a conference room, but it was a little more difficult to hide from your personal square on Zoom.
I think you have a good point there, and I'm a little bit upset with you, Melissa. You didn't share the idea with me about getting in my car, because that was something that I found I was a little short with my son every now and again because I had a stressful day at work and I didn't have the 15-minute decompression time to come home.
Right.
And I caught myself a few times being shorter than I would be with Johnny because of that. So I wish I would have had that idea 6 months ago, 8 months ago.
Right.
To your point about the Zoom fatigue, we talked about it a lot in our all hands calls as a company, just because of the empathetic approach that we take. But looking at it, we had moments where we actually told employees, it's okay to go off camera. Yes, we want to be engaged with customers, we want to be engaged for that. That does not mean you need to be on the camera 8 hours a day.
Right.
Some of my leaders actually had days where they would they would be camera-free days. So
Mm,
they would have calls with their customers or call whatever it is, but they'd be Zoom free. So there wasn't a pretense of having to get all gussied up.
right,
Wear your jammies in safety of not having that.
right,
Now, I always felt that the camera helped have a connection because I engage with people differently, and I really like that personal engagement. Call it empathy, call it engagement. I also find that myself, I need to shower and go through the motions. So while I had the Zoom fatigue of doing 10 or 15 or even 20 meetings back to back in a day,
right.
I couldn't really turn off the camera because I almost felt like I wasn't, not that I was multitasking, not that I wasn't paying attention, but for me, I didn't feel like I was having an honest connection. That was a personal thing that I had to struggle with. And I talked with my manager a little bit, and he encouraged me to listen to my own advice and
Right.
have some camera-free days too.
No,
So
I think that that's genius. I'll share that idea with my husband because every day it's just call after call after call. And I can't even run in and give him a kiss because he's always on camera, you know? I liked being able to do that when it was just like normal phone call time. You know, I could get a hug in the middle of the day, but no
uh-huh.
hugs for me. Um, but yeah, so it's weird. Now, not all of your people were working from home or were traveling. You know, when I was at your second, I believe Austin is your second largest office
Yes,
environment.
ma'am.
And there was a number of people that worked there every single day, and including yourself, I believe. And so there was still some things that your IT team had to do, I imagine, like on a moment's notice to say, okay, we're closing the office down, and how do we do this? And somebody would think, oh, well, they're a tech company, they can handle it. But you're not a tech work from home infrastructure company. You're a data management company. It's
Yes.
quite different. So, you know, what made it easy, or what was some of the struggles that you had to sort of juggle to make that happen? And you know, so it wasn't like causing employees all kinds of stress, like, oh my god, is this going to work, you know?
So we have a really great CIO, Graham Thompson. He really is amazing. Fortunately for Informatica, 95% of our systems were already cloud-based.
Nice.
Not all of it. We still had a couple systems that required VPN access, but about 95% of our systems, plus or minus, were already cloud-based. So people were already connecting, and it wasn't requiring the heavy VPN. That being said, that walking the hallway, instant connection wasn't happening. And so that was a big transition. Some people thought, you know, this is going to be a couple weeks.
Right.
You know, I worked from my laptop before. I've traveled. I can work from home my laptop. Over time, as it was going forward, we had to get more creative. And so Teams and Slack came into Microsoft Teams and Slack came into play, where people can have a place where they can get together as a group, post things on it to share questions, be available or not available, which is something you would have in the office walking by your desk to say, oh, Bill, you have time for a question, and then not have it when you're dispersed across the country.
Right.
The other interesting thing too that Informatica really went out of their way is if you were considered a work from the office employee, you didn't have a setup at home.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't have a keyboard and a mouse, you just had your laptop.
Right.
So Informatica gave the option to all the employees who were work from office, the ability to get a camera and a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse sent to your house to give you the ability to be productive, to not be in a little tiny keyboard going like this the whole time.
Right.
So that really helped a lot in that process. We had to change up how we communicated with the organization. Quarterly all hands, when COVID hit, that went away. We were doing monthly all hands.
Right.
One of the things that we as an organization, as a company, had to do was really focus on transparency, giving out information at the E-suite, the CEO level, the executive committee, the senior vice presidents, even myself and my organization. Transparency was always a big key pillar for myself and for Informatica. Moving into COVID, when you're not together, you don't feel that synergy in a room anymore.
Right.
And so having the monthly all hands, getting ahead of it, getting ahead of communication, having more information come out from the C-suite room. We've also implemented in that same process live Q&As. So we'll have the entire executive committee on the phone for the last 20 minutes of an all hand, rapid fire questions, whatever is the question of the moment happening within the organization, they get through. Now, I will tell you that like most companies, we do a little bit of preceding, seeding some questions. So we'll survey the entire organization, 5,000 plus employees. What's top of mind? So what's top of mind for you, Melissa? What's top of mind for Bill? To try and get some common themes, so those can be addressed during the all hands, and not have these random things at the end that 10 people might ask for it, or 100 people might ask for something else.
Sure.
And that seems to have worked really well. The feedback, ironically, and I know you and I talked about this when we did training, the engagement survey that Informatica does every year, my engagement survey in the middle of COVID was actually better than the year before.
Wow.
And we weren't connected, but they were still felt more engaged and they were more responsive to questions. The team felt they were getting information. I personally felt I got a lot of information. I'm like, wow, I get enough. But the field, and maybe it's because I'm in more meetings than the field was, because they're all dispersed. But the field and the individual contributors and the managers, they loved having more information. They felt more connected with the team, even though we weren't together in person.
Well, and I think that goes a long way in managing an employee's stress, is that information, because we were in this very unknowing spot in the world for everybody. What's going to happen next? Is my job on the line? Am I going to die? I mean, all of those like really serious questions, like, are we ever going to be able to be together? Am I going to see my grandma again? It's those sorts of things that affect us productivity wise as well. And the stress we bring, there's no turning off your emotions at the door anymore. And that's just, it was ridiculous when I started, my career 30 years ago, and it's ridiculous now. It's not possible to do that. And now that our life is even more intertwined with our home life, it's even more impossible. So I've always felt like information is power, and power is a stress. That power, it can be a stress reliever, probably because I'm also a control freak. So I like to know stuff, so I have the power to make change in my life that affects me positively. So I think that taking that very transparent approach to communication is a good one, where again, we came from this time where we maybe took some of the communication that you received from the C-suite, and maybe you didn't disperse it like you now consciously, like, I've got to tell my team this. It's like top of mind now, as opposed to, I'll put it on the next agenda.
Yes, exactly. I'll cover that in the next all hands. I'll cover that in the monthly email update that got to the team.
Right.
You hit a great point, and I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk with our CEO, Amit Walia.
No.
I've been in the business for almost 30 years myself, and I've worked for a whole variety of different CEOs. Of all the CEOs I've worked for, Amit is probably the most empathetic that I've worked with. Wow. I mean, he really does believe in leading with empathy, that employees come first. Like, from a services business, we have nothing, we have no product without the team. Right. So it really is important for our CEO, but all the way down through the whole leadership chain, to make sure our people understand and our teams understand that how important they are to the success of the company, how important they are as individuals. But hearing Amit talk about some things that happened the last year on COVID, and the empathy that he puts out there across all the levels, is just an amazing feeling. And I think that really helped pull together that information, even hard discussions. About the breakout in India right now. We have all hands on deck. A large portion of our workforce is based in Bangalore, and we have company resources working with our teams to help them find hospitals, to help them find oxygen, to help them medical supplies, making sure their safety and their family safety is critical. we have different team members donating into the mix. So Informatica made their own donation and different individuals are making donations. In my team alone, I have a good percentage, double digit, 20, 30% of my team who's personally impacted with family living in India, and understanding the impact that has on them mentally, knowing that they can't travel, knowing that there's no control halfway around the world, and how to balance through that. It has to be with empathy. It has to be with information. It has to know that we know that this is going on for you and the company will still be here and we're here with you.
Right, right. I almost teared up hearing the things that the employees are doing even for one another, which makes me think about, even though we're Zoom fatigued, it was our outlet for connection. It was the way we continue to be together. Sure, Slack and Teams were also there, but it's the way that it just makes a huge difference when you can actually see somebody's full face without a mask and see how you're being received and vice versa. Because I talk a lot about body language myself, and I have been I'm not able to do that in the world these days, and I feel there's this huge void in my heart and my life because I can't. But I'm curious to how much your managers, maybe even your employees, okay, we're like, okay, we're going to go virtual, we're going to go all out because we want engagement high, we want people to be productive, we want the communication to be good, we want this still to be a fun place to work, we don't want to lose the employees that we love and that are doing such a good job, we want to lower stress, all of those things. So did your company as a whole take just sort of just, we're going to do it, and these are all the different things, from virtual team happy hours to executive coffee talk to just like, what are the different things that people did to help be more connected?
I think you're hitting it there, Melissa. One of the things that we also found, and while I may come off as an extrovert, I'm really a closet introvert. I'm a great salesperson on stage, but for me, all the social stuff on Zoom, I do it because I'm a great leader and I believe in the people, believe in my team, and believe making sure that we do the right things.
Right.
But I have to work to do that. And so one of the great things, Informatica did a bunch of stuff. We did the company all hands every month. We had executive coffee talks. We created an organization called Rise. We call it Rise. It's resources from Informatica to support our employees. We had global joy events around the holidays where the entire company can go out and decorate a tree together. We had an ugly sweatshirt or sweater kind of thing, baking together. Informatica sent out relaxation gifts to all their employees throughout the year, yoga mats and speakers. Each of the managers, we rolled out 2 different types of manager programs. The managers were encouraged, so Manager Mondays and Enablement Curriculum, they were encouraged to assess the personal workload of an employee. So if they got a sense talking to you that your normal cadence was a little bit more frazzled, I personally have told my employee, tomorrow, you're one of my directors, you're taking tomorrow off. Just please enjoy the long weekend. Put me as your out of office, I'll take care of any escalation to do that. Help them set new priorities. Like most high-tech companies, we do offer employee assisted programs, but we also hired a chief diversity officer.
Oh, wow.
All of these things were not done with a compulsory mechanism. So Melissa, you weren't forced to do all of these things. Sure. They were optional. You can opt into it. You can opt out of it. Myself personally, for my org, I've got about 250. I've had virtual happy hours where people came to those. When I set them up, I think more people came because they thought they had to. When I told them it was optional, about 20% didn't come, and I wasn't offended.
Right.
What makes sense for your time? We also had some employees, like one of my employees on my team really likes yoga. She would host her own yoga session on Zoom and invite people from the teams to that. So not only was the company doing things along those way, making it more optional for people to pick and choose, honestly, between 5 and 6 o'clock at night, when I'm home, that's my protected time with my family and dinner. We cook together, we work together. Doing a happy hour in that hour is problematic for me. And
Right.
some families, different time zones had the same issue. So making sure that we did it in a way that allowed people to have the option without requiring it, making it part of their job, allowing people to have flexible workloads. Some people, they get home from school, they have to work on schoolwork from 4 to 6, and then they go
Right.
back to their laptop later. Those are the kind of things that we've done hands-on, from enabling our managers to be better leaders, from engaging with our teams to be in a virtual world now, but optional engagement in that process.
Right. Well, and something made me think about, I think there are some people that are approachable and some people that are not as approachable, and some managers that really sort of like to be unapproachable. I'm the big woman, I'm the big man in charge, and only come to me for the really hard things, solve it on your own. Or, then you've also got the micromanagers, but that you're like, oh my gosh, please don't approach me, because I already know how to do my job. But I'm just wondering, did you see anything that your managers did to help them be more approachable when it wasn't a planned event? It wasn't a happy hour. It wasn't, the organic passing Bill in the hallway. Oh, Bill, I'm glad I saw you. I wanted to ask you this question about ba 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 ba. Those sort of things didn't happen. So then now you go to these scheduled and optional and non-optional meetings. But was there chances for even those one-off sort of, just to make a manager more approachable overall? I mean, how do you do this, and how do you do that in a virtual world? Like, I'm available, but I'm always not available. It's just, how do you weigh that?
So from a company perspective, it wasn't something that was rolled out company-wide. One of the things that, and I'm not sure how familiar with Microsoft Teams, it does allow you to see available, not available.
Mhm.
So in services, for example, we were able to see people weren't on meetings, and much like I would do in the hallway in Austin, I'd walk the hallway, I'd send a Teams message, hey, you have a few minutes?
Right.
And just want to check in. I've also had people similarly with me just drop me a Teams message and say, hey, do you have a few minutes? And when we were doing our manager meetings, we would encourage folks to have that kind of discussion, to just do a check-in. Don't schedule it. Don't have a scheduled one-on-one. Simply just drop Melissa a Teams, say, hey, just checking on you today. I have a few minutes today. Do you have a few minutes? I'm sorry.
Right. And so we've hit on the level of stress that I think that we're all experiencing. And this, for everybody, it goes ups and downs. And we, in the US, we think that, oh, maybe we'll be able to go back to normal because everybody that wants to get vaccinated has got vaccinated. And, yes, I've got
That's
my
my little card.
I know, yay! So excited. um, and again, but I mean, also internationally, how does that affect you and your mindset? Because all your people are not here. But so you've got people that it's the world with COVID, and either, I know that there's a certain percentage of your workforce that maybe even got COVID, or that they knew somebody that had COVID, or they had to take care of somebody that had COVID, or my gosh, the worst, somebody just passed away, that had COVID. And that's traumatic. And how does a company, an international company, support people through those ups and downs when it's the really serious crap that we're dealing with? I mean, what do you do besides empathy? I mean, what do you do?
We've done a lot of outreach, and so our HR organization worked really hand in hand throughout the COVID process. We had a standing policy: if you had any impact with COVID, take 2 weeks. Just go take 2 weeks. We're not going to count it against you. We're just, you personally, your spouse, a loved one, a COVID scare, etc. Like most companies, we've been impacted from the worst case scenario through the light case scenario. Knock on wood, myself and my family have not been impacted by COVID, but some people on my team have been.
Right.
Direct team members, family members, and some folks have passed away in that process. In that scenario, that outreach, we had a dedicated organization within our HR team that actually did the outreach and helped connect resources for the person if they didn't have it. I mentioned earlier that, like all high-tech companies, we have an employee assistance program. However, our HR team really doubled down on keeping track of not necessarily like an HR registry of healthcare issues, but that there was an impact, and how can we help you with that? What do you need from that? We sent out in the process early on packets to our folks, hand sanitizer, gloves. If there was things going on in those areas that were getting heavily hit, that our IT and our HR organization worked together to send out packets to folks. We are still a work from home company. I honestly don't see us moving to a full on office. I think we'll be hybrid for quite some time. But that being said, we're still not forcing our employees to travel.
Right.
It's going to be a personal decision when they're comfortable with traveling. Some people will be more comfortable than others. I got vaccinated. I'm leaving tomorrow morning to go to Disney World personally. I'm still going to wear a mask when I leave the house, even though I'm vaccinated. I'll wear the mask on the airplane, wear the mask on the shuttle, wear the mask in the park. But my personal level of engagement, maybe it's because myself and my husband and my son are all fully vaccinated, is a little bit lesser. Other people may not. There may be issues why they can't get vaccinated. They don't want to get vaccinated. That's a personal choice. I've made it a personal choice with my team. The company's made it personal, that it's not you don't have to justify, Melissa, why you don't want to travel. You don't need to justify why you don't want to go to the office yet. This is all optional. I think it'll be optional for some time yet. In all the discussions we've had so far, we have 2 different offices having a pilot program where people voluntarily want to go to the office for a little bit, but it's still 10-ish%. I think as we roll the rest of those out, it'll still be optional for some time. And even when we do get back to the office, where the light's at the end of the tunnel, when we're all traveling and doing what we need to do, I just don't see that most high-tech companies, Informatica included, will get to a point where we will be a full-time in the office. We care too much about our employees, both mental and health state, that I likely think we'll end up being a hybrid company for many, many, many years to come.
Right. And I praise your company for hiring a head of diversity in this time, because it's, aside from the race and religion and sexual orientation, I think that I'm starting to get this inkling of this, why aren't you vaccinated? These feelings for or against, and without knowing what somebody's background is. Maybe they have, one of my dear friends that I grew up with, she's had a lot of difficulty with vaccinations overall. So she has to be really, really careful. And instead of me just jumping to saying, why aren't you just doing it? Give me the program. And I have to say, whoa, stop the clock, Mel. And so I think that there's this whole other sensitivity training that we have to, just kind of put our hat on and say, we are diverse in yet another area based on our own personal journey and our own personal beliefs and our own experiences. It's just, if we thought we were complex before, it's just another level of that in complexity. So.
No, I think you're 100% right. The vaccination is a choice. There are a whole number of reasons: religious reasons, personal belief reasons, health reasons, why somebody would or would not make those choices. And also for our kiddos. Like, my son's 12. Like, we actually asked him his personal opinion while my husband and I thought it was the right thing to do. We wanted him to be an informed and consensual part of this solution, to make a choice whether or not he was going to get his shot. We have no idea, and that's part of empathy and part of being a good leader, is I don't know what's going on in your world, Melissa.
Right.
Your choice for what you decide to do for you and your family is your choice, and it doesn't need to be justified or explained. And who am I to pass judgment on that?
Right.
I haven't walked in your shoes.
Right. Exactly. So we're hoping we're almost middle way through 2021. Can you believe it? Things are looking better. And I know that in Q1, Informatica was able to hire nearly 500 people worldwide.
Yeah.
So amazing. And give yourselves all pats on the back. And I'm curious to what happened with your business that made that possible.
So poor Amit, he literally took the reins over as a CEO in January and COVID hit in March.
Oh
So
my
he
God.
took over just before the pandemic hit.
Woo!
In that process, while we're still focusing on our team and focusing on on what's right for the organization, we're making investments. Our cloud and our AI investments have led to continual growth even during the pandemic. Customers still found value, still understood that Informatica was the right platform to be successful. Because of those investments, we're seeing more and more customers engage. When they engage, our teams are expanding. And so it really, kudos, hats off to Amit, still leading with empathy, still engaging with the team, but still having the foresight to know that we will come out of this, to keep investing in the right areas. And again, like the cloud and AI pieces of Informatica is moving all of our products and platform into the cloud is really helping. This is probably the biggest reason why we have record number of hires in Q1 of this year. We are definitely focused in helping our customers be cloud first, cloud native. Ironically, COVID, I think, moved us a little faster down that continuum because we forced our customers to get out of their own way,
Right.
being on-prem all the time. It was much faster. Customers were almost demanding more and more products to be cloud-based when COVID hit. And so it really was a wildfire for us to keep up with our customers.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I like, Bill, thank you so much. And I like to end every interview with some rapid fire questions.
All right.
So are you ready?
Should I be scared?
No.
Okay.
Never be scared. All right. So what is your biggest workplace fear?
Failing an employee.
Mm.
Having an employee, just failing them as a leader, failing them as part of their career journey, just not being the leader they need to be successful. I've been lucky throughout my career to find some really powerful leaders that I can look up to. And I think for me, I've proven myself, I'm not stressed about my own personal job. My focus, and like you've said earlier, being the oldest of 12, is I want to have an impact. And I want to have a positive impact. And failing an employee is probably my biggest fear as a leader.
And what motivates you?
Really, that's a great question. Again, we talk about my roots. I grew up in a small trailer. And so I've always believed in self-empowerment. You wouldn't believe this. I'm the only one the first one in my family to go to college. I really believe in empowering people to be successful. And so I get juiced up by empowering our customers or empowering my team to take off their blinders and see a brand new world, and like they can conquer it. And what can I do to help them be successful? Every day there's a new challenge. One of the reasons I love being in services is because it's not boring. There is a fire every day. Somebody is not happy. The product didn't do what X. The customer changed scope. The dog got sick. I missed my flight. And I love it. I thrive in that environment. And what motivates me is helping people achieve greatness.
I love that. I am also that problem solver as well. Give me a problem. I love to solve. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Last question. If money and time were no object, what would you do for your team tomorrow to ensure everyone felt a real sense of humanity at work?
That's an interesting question. If money and time were no option, I would love to get the entire organization together to work on some kind of volunteer event, like spending the weekend, Habitat for Humanity, something along those lines where everybody's working together as one team, one group, helping others. I mean, I think it all boils down to, as leaders, if none of us take leaders for the glory. We take leaders to just like parents for kids to help develop that, bringing everybody together without the constraints of money or time, focusing and watching what people can do. My team alone, 200 and 250 people, we can probably get 4 or 5 houses built.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the impact you can have with that. And everybody doing their piece. I'm not an electrician, but I can certainly hammer a nail.
Right.
And you pull those things together, and I think that would probably be something I'd really love to do as an organization. We have done not quite that level, but Informatica has done this, and I've done it with other companies before, where we volunteer at the soup kitchen here locally in Austin on a smaller scale with folks here. But if money and time were no issue, I'd have my entire team go somewhere and we'd do a big volunteer project like that.
Love it. Love it. Well, that's today's episode. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I appreciate it and love talking with you.
That is today's episode. I would like to thank you, my listener, for your time, and our special guest, Bill Humphrey, for his contribution to this show. Look out for our next episode on tdaustin.org. Be sure to like our LinkedIn and Facebook pages. If you would like to be featured on the show, send your request to me at podcasts@tdaustin.org or reach out to me on LinkedIn.